Well, back to work on a glorious Monday, and we are back out here on the farm job. Got the Kubota warming up, and we're going to try to finish this little garden area today with the mulcher. And I got the blower with me today, which I didn't last time, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and start taking out some of this stuff in the front. We're going to leave some of the stuff that he wants, like this water oak will stay, but these wax myrtles, they're coming out. That wax myrtle, I don't know if I'm going to take that gum down with the mulcher. It's a little big at the bottom. That might be one we take out with the mini, or dig it out or cut it and just stack it and burn it. These gums, I'll tell you one thing, if you need firewood, the gum trees are really good for making firewood. They are good. It is a good firewood burning wood, but those little gums will come out. These wax myrtles, that whatever that is, some kind of willow or something, that's gonna stay. And then these pines, some of those pines back in there will go, but the ones kind of right here on this front line will stay to kind of give it a nice barrier through here. Some of this will stay, but that gum's going to go, and then the rest of that stuff in there in the middle is going to go for the most part. I was going to get the little Takeuchi out. We got the brush cutter, his Rut Manufacturing brush cutter, running on that thing last week. I think I was down here last Wednesday right before the storm came, and we got it running, got it hooked up. I got the issue with the quick coupler fixed, but we just had to shorten the hoses, and we unhooked the hoses so we could have about 2 feet taken off of them because they were too long. And that typically happens when you get these attachments. They come with really long hoses and you have to shorten them. So I don't think he's got the hoses back yet from being shortened from last week. So, or if he has gotten them shortened, he hasn't come back down here to drop them off. So, but hopefully maybe later this week or early next or this coming weekend, I'll be able to get back down here and crank that thing up. He really wants me to run it and use it and give him some feedback on it, make a video about it, so I'm really excited to do that. But for now, we'll do this today, and then I'm picking this machine up today, and we're going back out to the snake pond job to do some more work out there, on an overgrown sort of like ditch area out there that's just full of gums and God knows what. So I think it's going to be a fun probably 3 days out there with this thing as well. So, but that's for later this week, so let's get started what we got to do today. of a downpour come on and hit us here, so I think it's starting to taper off, but it was a pretty good little rain there for a minute. And I'm gonna try to take this big old gum down. This is a pretty tall one. This thing's at least 30 feet, and it's probably every bit of 8 inches at the stump. See if we can't get it down. Don't follow me. Oh, there it wants to go. There we go. Once I get it to about 4 or 5 so feet tall, if it's a thicker tree, I can start kind of working my way up it a little bit. If it's too tall, it gets a little bit too wobbly. And I'll take the top off there, that smaller top, and then we'll work the rest of it a little bit more. That. Take one more. Boom. We'll let the head spin back up. Now we've turned an 8-inch tree into like a 2-inch tree. Not really had to fight with it too much to get it there. Just shave this stump down about as close to ground level as I can just about get it. That way it's not sticking up. Golly, that thing might be, geez, long point to long point, it might be 10 inches. I don't know, that's a pretty decent sized tree at the stump. Oh yeah, that's 10 inches at least. Let the camera go down a little bit. Now we got to grind up this top. Let's see if we can't feed it in there a little bit. To the back side. That will mostly work. Clean up these little pieces right here on the ground. Try to get the rest of that big piece there if I can. It's a little far away from me, we'll pull up. I just want to get these last little few pieces. There we go. And we're off. Can still see. There we go. There we go. And we got another decent. Actually, I think this right here is, yeah, this is a red maple right here. We're getting ready to take down. Yep. It's probably 25, 30 feet as well. A little smaller at the bottom though, it looks like. Oops. On down, yep. Red maples shred like that a lot. You see like the, well, I got water on the windshield here, but you can kind of see the way the bark kind of peels off, almost like a poplar tree does. Poplars do the same thing. And actually, I was watching a video or a show about a guy, I think he's up in North Carolina somewhere, up in the mountains. And he takes poplar trees. I guess you could say he's kind of like a logger, but they take poplar trees and they take the bark off these big poplar trees and they treat them. They treat the bark somehow and they turn it into siding for houses. I thought that was the craziest thing ever. It looks really cool when they get done with it. I saw it, I might have seen it in a magazine. I forget, but man, it was cool looking. But I bet you it's uber expensive. But it looked cool. Very interesting idea for siding on a house. Maples kind of make a mess. It's a pretty hardy wood. I'd say they're just as hard as the gum, the sweet gums, if not worse. This one's pretty decently sized at the bottom down there. Not too much there. I try to get these stumps down kind of as low as I can, because when you start driving over them with the tracks, hell on the track. So the lower you can get those stumps ground down, the less they can, you know, put pressure on and puncture your tracks or mess with your tracks. That's what in here really tears up your tracks, is going over these stumps. So I try to get them down low as I can so they're not as bad. Seems to do a little better than them kind of sticking up a little bit on the top. Drawback that I have found with this thing over a mulcher on a skid steer is grinding up the tops. Like when you top a tree and that piece falls on the ground like that right there, that just takes so much more time, it seems like, because this thing throws these pieces of the tops all over the place, and then you're trying to, like, it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole or like whack-a-mulch. And you're trying to hunt all over the ground for these pieces. Honestly, if I had the skid steer with the rotary, with the MTL on it, I wouldn't even mess with these tops. I would just take the mulcher through here, top the trees, grind the trunks down, and leave the tops on the ground, and then come back through and just grind the tops up with the MTL, and that would be a lot quicker if I had that machine here with me. But obviously I'd have to make 2 trips, bring that machine, and it's just a lot of overhead driving, because this job is about an hour and a half from my office back in Myrtle Beach. So, and it's about an hour and a half from my farm as well, or my parents' farm, where I keep my equipment occasionally as well. So it's just a long trip and a lot of driving to bring both machines out here. And don't get me wrong, this thing's getting the job done, but if I had the MTL, I wouldn't even mess with these tops. Because these tops are relatively small in diameter. I mean, they might be long, but they're not very big around. You know, the core of it is not very big. Whoa. Bit of a hole there. And they would grind them up like no problem. No problem. That little red maple out. And this gum right here, see my, well, if I can get my hand in there. Maybe I can. Let's see. This gum right here, I'm not gonna mess with that thing with the mulcher because it is big and tall. That thing's probably 40 feet. And I could mulch it, but I'm worried about it the top falling down on me. And a tree that big is very hard to grind up once it's on the ground, laying down flat with this thing. So that's one I'll probably come back and just cut down with the chainsaw. I don't know if I'll do that today or not. And then we'll just pile it up with the, I can take it, cut it up, we can pile it up with the mini and take it somewhere, and I can cut it up, take it to the house for, if he doesn't want it, the client doesn't want it, I'll take it to our farm and use it as firewood this fall. I'll load it up on that Kaufman trailer, that little single axle. I'll come down here and just load all that firewood up on that thing. Take it with. Sweet gums do make really good firewood. Some of these little gum trees that are starting to sprout back up, I'm trying to mulch them down as I go too. So let's finish this out real quick. The rain is, I think it stopped. I think the rain stopped. I hope so. One thing I haven't found, because I've mulched in the rain with this thing before, and the rain, you know, the material being wet does not seem to affect this thing's ability to mulch. It's not like a lawnmower where, you know, if you were cutting grass with like a lawnmower or something like that, or even like my MTL, you can definitely tell a difference when the material is wet, trying to cut, you know, or mow with that MTL. Like grass, like small grass and brush and stuff like that. There's a huge difference with this mulcher, with this wet, you know, even when it's wet and raining, I can tell no difference in my production or the quality of the mulch or anything really with this mulcher. So I don't know if that's a question anybody's ever had, but you know, as far as will this thing work when it's wet or raining, as far as I can tell, it works just fine. Big old piece of a gum tree right there. The last time I mulched, was an older piece. And so what'll happen here is like that gum, that's a gum tree right there. Right there. That's a gum tree. And that thing just looks like a little pile of weeds or whatever. But in a couple years, that right there will look like those trees right over there. So these gum trees, you know, they start off looking like weeds, and people are like, oh, it's just a weed thing, and then, you know, a year or two later, it's a whole daggum tree, you know, and then you're calling somebody out here to get rid of it, you know, if you don't have a chainsaw and equipment and stuff like that. Now, you know, out here where I'm at, a lot of these farm people, you know, because they farm and, you know, they got chainsaws and tractors and stuff like that, but for your normal homeowner, you see something like that pop up in your backyard, you don't give it any thought, and then a couple years later you got a big old tree in your backyard. Maybe that's something you want, maybe it's something you don't. But that's the kind of the sneaky thing about these gum trees, is they start off just looking like little weeds. People don't pay no mind to them, and then in a couple years they're whole big old trees. Okay, so that little run right there is pretty much done. We got all that cut and mulched and taken out. And I've got maybe 2 more little runs to go. And this will just about be done. So, making good progress in here. I'm going to leave that little red maple right there for now. Leave a few things kind of close to the road. So looks like it's starting to rain again, but this is coming along. All right, everybody, that is that for today. And I think this is mostly pretty much done, other than some of these bigger gums right here next to the road. They're a little big. I could probably mulch them, but they're a little big, and they're right here next to the road, and they just make a mess. So I was thinking about getting a little Takeuchi down there and just go ahead and digging them and pushing them over, but I ran out of time. And the other thing is, I don't know if there shouldn't be any utility going through here. The house is on well water, so there's no water. It's on septic, so there's no sewer, and the power's up there. But I don't know if there's internet cable that runs through here somewhere. If there is, it ought to be over here, I would think. But I don't know that. So I'd just rather play it safe and just check with the owner. But that's a really pretty red maple right there. That'll stay. And I don't know what that is, but I need to get the rest of the, kind of get those vines off of it, but that'll stay. I think that's a type of hickory, but I don't know that for a fact. But that gum tree needs to go. That crooked gum tree needs to go, and then that big one right there, those two big ones right there need to go. And then the other big one down there. And what I'll probably end up doing is, if he doesn't want them, I'll probably just take them with me, and I can take them to the farm and use them as firewood this fall. Have a good bit of firewood. I think we're about out anyway. But yeah, all this cleaned up in here pretty good. And like that mulcher, my opinion, for doing that out there in the middle, not the best thing in the world. You know, obviously a skid steer with a mulcher would have been a little bit more efficient, but it was perfect to come along this roadway here and kind of just clean up some of this stuff. And then like this tree, like I was able to grind that wax myrtle that was right here and not disturb that. Same thing with that tree down there on the very corner. It was all gummed up with all kinds of stuff around it. I mulched everything around it and didn't even touch it. So you can be very precise with that head, and it's really nice kind of underbrush in areas like right here, where I could get right in here, underbrush this out, get right up next to these trees here on both sides, and not have to worry about hitting that tree. And also with the skid steer, I'd have to drive in this way, and it, you know, with it raining today, this is all soft, and then you rut up this ditch and everything, and I don't have to worry about that either. So for that out there, skid steer would have been better, but for this through here, but like I said before in the cab, if I had the skid steer, I would have just topped these trees and then just ground the trunks and left the tops, and then come back through here with the skid steer with the MTL and just ground everything, ground the tops on the ground, and that would have been really, that would have actually worked out pretty well. That would have been pretty efficient. But it got the job done. It wasn't totally inefficient. It wasn't the wrong tool for the job, just wasn't the most efficient tool for the job. I'll put it that way. There's a difference between, I think in my mind, of having the wrong tool for the job and having the most efficient tool for the job. There are some things out there that will get the job done. They're just not quite as efficient. But my one screw up today was the owner wanted to save, there was a cattail right there. The owner wanted to save that, and I was grinding that wax myrtle right here, and it was on the ground, and I ground it, and the head went right into that cattail. So I went down the road and found a couple in a ditch, and just plucked them out really quick and planted them right there. So when I screw up, I try to own it and try to fix it if I can. So hopefully those will take. If they don't, there was a whole bunch of them in a ditch on the side of a country back road back there, and in front of a cornfield. And so if they don't take, I got plenty more I can go get. But he kind of liked that cattail going there. I think that one will grow back. I looked it up. It said if you don't cut them, as long as you don't cut them below the water line, they typically will grow back. So hopefully that one will grow back, but hopefully those will take too. But yeah, all this looks good. I saw that Chris from Let's Dig 18 got himself a really cool looking mulcher for his new Mini. Somebody commented on my channel, and I watched that video. Man, that thing sounds, the motor in it, it must have like the exact same motor in it. It's definitely it's not a piston motor because it only has 2 lines. So it's a direct drive motor, and it sounds just like the motor in mine. And I'm guessing most of the motors in these things are, you know, in these mulchers are other people's motors. I know Prinoth in their skid steer mulchers uses a Rexroth motor, so I'm guessing they might actually have the same motor in it. And that's the company that makes that mulcher that he got's an Italian company, and my Prinoth is Prinoth is an Italian company, but the company that made that mulcher before Prinoth bought them was Aui, or Aui, or however you pronounce it. I think it's Aui. They were a German company, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're using the same pump motors, because his sounds exactly like mine. It's a little smaller in diameter of the mulcher, or not diameter, width, because I looked up the specs on it, but it's actually a little heavier. So I think his is like, I think it was like 28 or 30 inches in width, and mine's 35. But his actually weighed like, so this one with that mount weighs exactly 1,000 pounds. And I think his without the mount, the spec said I think it weighed 1,128 or 30 pounds or something like that, if I remember correctly. So it weighs a little bit more. So I wonder if it's just got some more steel in some different spots or something. It might actually have maybe a bigger diameter rotor. I don't know. That one's got a pretty big diameter rotor on it. But yeah, that thing his looks really badass. I didn't really get a chance to check out an up close of the teeth and what they look like, but they do, from what I could tell, maybe they look like they're a chisel tooth that sharpens from the underside, like mine, that you sharpen from underneath. And somebody questioned that, and so these teeth, they work just like a like basically the same kind of a tooth concept on a chainsaw, where you sharpen the inside and bring the edge up from the bottom, and this is your cutting edge here, and then you sharpen it from the underside. A lot of the other ones, like the Fecons and the Dennis CMOS, you grind from the top or sharpen from the top, but these work, this tooth, and I think Chris is on his as well, work more like a chainsaw kind of action, where you sharpen them from the underside. These really need to be sharpened after today. So well, that's it. I'm gonna chain this thing down. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're going back out, like I said, we're going back out to the snake pond tomorrow, and we're gonna get the mulching out there. We got probably 3 days worth of mulching out there, so stay tuned for that, and I will catch you guys later. I am out. Bye.